Hey, welcome to the Next Step Podcast. This is episode number 52, and we're grateful for that. Our producer's Brent. He's behind the board. We're excited about his leadership. But today we've got with us Mr. Jason Griffin, who's a part of our church and part of our community, and just a unique guy from around the world with all kinds of good stuff. So, Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you.
So as we dive in today, Jason is in the middle of baseball season. That's important to him because he's a professional baseball coach, not on the field so much, but a professional leadership development coach that helps staff members and athletes that are at multiple levels. So tell us what you do and some of the cool things that have happened to you in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I became a chaplain of the Texas Rangers and in 2013 in Surprise, Arizona.
Surprise, Arizona?
Surprise, Arizona.
How about that?
And the spring training facility is right there in town, and we were starting a church, and I was right there locally. And so I started doing that, and then over a period of like 8 years, my wife, my family, and I, we just poured ourselves into athletes and coaches, and they would stay with us. We would have barbecues at the house. We would disciple couples. We would, and it was just part of life and what we did, right? And so 2019, I stepped out of pastoring the church, and they hired me to come and continue that work.
Awesome.
So I had a history of leadership development, a history of life coaching type stuff for them, and they didn't know what to call it. And so I called it Making Disciples. They called it life coaching. So we kind of married the two, and so since then,
and you've been to seminary and have a seminary degree and started a church.
Bible degree. So like I said, undergraduate degree in Bible. And so that was the track I was going on,
That's
and
awesome.
then now baseball is what I do. And that's all I do really is like, my job is to develop leaders, to come alongside leaders, come alongside players at every level and just begin to kind of build life skills and help with things off the field. 90% of their whole life is pretty much off the field, and how is it connected to on-field performance and all that kind of stuff. And then so I get the luxury of doing that. And most guys think, oh, wow, that's a great job. Like, how do you get to do that? And so I really love it. I love my job.
Awesome. So there's a lesson in this, though.
Yeah.
So you worked for free for 5 years before you got employed to do anything.
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's something out there. I think everybody has this expectation of, I've done the classwork, or I've gotten the stuff done, and now y'all take a number and I'll accept your bids.
Yeah,
It's not like that.
I get calls. Matter of fact, I just had one last week, but it happens all the time where somebody knows what I did and what I do, and so, hey, I'm looking to get into chaplaincy.
Yeah.
And so whenever I talk to him about what that looks like, I don't know. I thought I was going to get paid to do all of that, but not necessarily. Some chaplaincies maybe, but.
So what did that look like for you in the time of your life, for those 6 or 7 years? When were you volunteering to be a chaplain in addition to being a church planner?
Oh, the church was meeting in a school. We were meeting in a school right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rangers gave me basically, I built relationships, and I was just pouring in. So, and our church was involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
So players would come over. We invite everybody over to church and have a meal, or we would buy them all Bibles and put their names on it. And it was an active thing where we would host all the time. And so to me, it was the fishing hole, where from a missionary standpoint, where that's where I would go, and they give me free reign to impact.
Wow.
And so I took advantage of that, every ounce of it. So a day-to-day, week-to-week kind of thing for me was just being able to know when to be there, be in the dugout, or if they allow me in the dugout as a chaplain, and just be on the field, ask questions, see how coaches are coaching, see how players are playing and how they're responding, seeing how rehab guys are rehabbing and working through that emotionally and all that kind of stuff. And I created a tremendous amount of empathy in that arena, which I don't know why they kept inviting me back, honestly, but they just kept inviting me back, and I kept going, and kept building relationships, and it was just constant where God was just doing some really, really cool things on the campus. And then when a player just says, "Hey, you got a minute?" Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then when you say yes enough to like, "Hey, you got a minute?"
Mm-hmm.
Usually that means it's an opportunity, a door open. And there's so many guys that have come to Christ through "You got a minute?"
Yeah. What about that? It could be
so
a title of a book you write one
You
day.
got a minute? So, and the cool thing is like, there are guys that I meet, and I'm right when I'm meeting, when they first get in from the draft or whatever it is, I would build relationship with them, and I can tell whether or not it's going to be a long-term thing or a short-term thing.
How could you tell?
Because just closed off, and they just kind of like to themselves, or they're kind of about themselves a little bit more than the next guy. And then the good Christian guy that comes in that grew up in church and all that, those are the quick relationships that you can build with guys like that. But the long term, and I can tell you, I don't have a number, I don't keep numbers or anything like that, but there's been so many guys 5 years, 3 years down the road where we're in an office and he's given his life to Christ.
Awesome.
Just because or we're in a coffee shop or something like that. To me, those are the things I don't really talk about who it is and all that kind of stuff. But it's unique in a sense that I can't talk about that type of work technically because of the nature of the relationship.
Sure.
And I didn't.
It's like a pastor giving away pastoral counseling secrets.
That's right. Yeah.
Can't believe what he told you. He did last week. You want to do stuff like that.
So yeah, I mean,
but you've worked, I'm sure, with very famous people that we would know.
Yeah.
And what we know about them is probably that they're just regular people like us, have the same struggles.
And they're just normal folks that just are elite at what they do. And they got probably more pressures than the average Joe, but they put it on themselves, and they want that, and they want to go after it. But sometimes the coping mechanisms can get to you. But Mindy has been, the whole family has been a part of this. Mindy's been awesome in terms of.
So Mindy's your wife, for those who don't know.
Yeah, Mindy is my wife.
Yeah.
Mindy and the family, I have 4 kids. Abby is 23 now, about to be 23. Olivia is 21. Josiah is about to be 19. And then Madeline is 15.
Hey, Abby, Olivia, Josiah, and Madeline.
Yep, they're out there. So our whole family was involved in this, which was really, really cool. And she's a phenomenal host, and she's easygoing. She builds relationships with them, and so makes them feel comfortable when they come in the house, and you know what I mean? Yeah. And so
Mindy's also a professional flight attendant trainer. Is that what her official job is?
Yeah, she's a flight attendant trainer.
For Delta?
Instructor. It's PSA.
PSA.
Yeah, it's a sub-company of American, but yep.
One of those blue and red and white plane people.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, she was a flight attendant for a little while there, and then she moved on up in the world on that. But she loves her job.
Awesome. And she's doing it right now. We'd love to get her back here sometime.
Yeah.
So y'all can get a chance to meet Mindy, but she's working hard this afternoon.
Yep. She's slaving while I'm doing podcasts.
That's awesome. Well, we're make it worth your while.
Yeah.
There's free water right there. I'm just messing with you. So tell us, what is it like? And this is a little bit different for those of you that are usually watching us. Is what's it like? So we're recording this on April the 10th, my brother Roger's birthday. So happy birthday, probably
happy birthday,
tomorrow,
Raj.
The next day. It's his birthday.
Yeah, I call him Raj.
Raj, my brother. Yeah. Jason, he became good friends.
Yeah.
Jason did some work with Conduit Carolinas in the off season, but more you were like, what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Back to baseball. So tell us what it's like these first 2 months of the season when people are coming in out of winter and they're getting started.
Yeah, I mean, everybody shows up to spring training, which is in Arizona.
And by everybody, describe to everybody who everybody is.
Yeah, so it's all big league team and staff. It's all minor leagues, except for the DR, our DR Academy.
And the DR is Dominican
Republic Academy. So Everybody except for them will come up, and they'll trickle in. The staff will trickle in and kind of experience spring training for a week or two. But it's quite a show. I mean, there's schedules and there's tight, and you show up for breakfast at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then you're there until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you got some games and you got workouts, you got all this stuff going on, and that happens throughout all of Arizona. I mean, you got American League that is, so that's a big deal for Phoenix.
It's kind of like Florida and
that's right.
Winter Garden, and
that's right.
There's places are in Florida for Punt Tampa.
So you get there's 7 fields, 7 fields really, 6.5, and every single one of them are occupied. You know, something's going on. There's drills doing this. There's games going over here. There's all kind of stuff going on.
How many players are actually there at the top of the funnel when everything starts?
Everything starts you got the invites, the non-invites. You got the I would say for the minor leagues, they just went down to 165 people that we can have.
Okay.
And usually you're going to start spring training somewhere in the 180 range with the minor leagues. And then by the time it's done, you might have to see about 10 to 12 of those go. And then you got rehabbers there that any given time you're probably 15 to 20 guys in rehab.
They're having Tommy John surgery or torn ACLs or whatever.
Everything under the sun can happen when you're playing. And then from a big league standpoint, it's you probably got 40 guys that are up there, and then coaching staff, and then performance staff, and everybody in between. I mean, that's well over 300 something people in one facility. So there's a lot of moving parts.
500 plus people, I would imagine. Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Wow.
So there's a lot of conversation, especially what I do. The nature of what I do. The nature of what I do is just build relationships and earn trust and help people take next steps and progressions through their development and things like that. And you got dinners and stuff like that. You kind of have to get off campus to talk about different anything. It's a lot of moving parts, and it's 6 weeks. I showed up most people showed up around the early February. I showed up February 18th, and I got back home the end of March.
Okay.
6 weeks, and you got a couple of days off in there.
And because you work with teams that are not in the majors, but AAA on down, describe to people what it looks like. Because first time you told me this, I didn't understand it was this intricate. So you have a Dominican Republic League where they're in a kind of a world of their own.
That's correct.
Right? And then you got what next?
Well, you got your rookie league. Okay. So everybody who doesn't make an affiliate, basically your A ball or double A ball or triple A ball, everybody stays in Arizona for an extended period of spring training. The rookies, they'll start a rookie season in the 1st of May.
Okay. And
they'll play up to 55 games, 60 games, somewhere in there for a rookie season. In the middle of there, you have to draft. All the draft guys show up to Arizona July. And we have the big camp and all that kind of stuff for them. And then they start incorporating, trickling into different teams. Yeah. Probably the rookie team primarily. And then you got your low A, which is right now in Hickory Crawdads.
Okay. Yeah.
Go Dads. So this is their first year for low A there. And then we just opened a new facility called the Spartanburgers in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And so that is our high A team.
Okay.
And then Frisco, Texas is our double A team. And that's the Rough Riders. And then you got Round Rock Express in Round Rock, Texas. That's the triple A guys.
Wow.
Yep.
That's cool. And so you spend a lot of time on planes, I'm sure.
On planes.
Yeah.
Well, locally, if I can drive to Hickory.
Sure, that's cool.
I can drive to Spartanburg. But, I'm getting ready to meet the low A team on the road. And that just kind of looks like I'll spend 3.5 days there, 3 games, and then I get to the opportunity of just getting into the gaps.
Yeah.
I'll get on the field and I'll help catch some things here and there, and I'll play catch and all that kind of stuff. But I try to stay out of that and just leave that to the coaches, the on-field coaches. But my main role is to support and come alongside every coach and performance staff and player. And then most of the time I'll take somebody out to breakfast or something like that and try to move the ball down the field a little bit with some of the guys. So yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So tell us your story. Kind of like, where are you from?
Yeah.
How'd you get here?
Man, I was born and raised Savannah, right outside Savannah, Georgia. It was I got two older brothers and a sister, and we're all a year apart. So Michael's a year ahead of me. Joey's 2 years ahead of me, and my sister's 1 year below me.
Wow.
And so yeah, we grew up in a little town called Rincon, Georgia, and we had a stoplight and a red and white grocery store, and we had a gas station that I'd walk to every day.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was just a little town. Now it's gotten bigger, but so yeah, grew up there, man. And mom and dad, I grew up in a little small Baptist church, going to a little small Baptist church, and so and then kind of some things started kind of going south there. And at the age of 12, my mom and dad got divorced, and dad kind of checked out for a little while, and that, obviously is kind of, you get confused as a 12-year-old and all that. And so, but it changed, it literally changed a lot, in my heart, as it related to God, the church, and how that impacted me. And so, so at the age of 12, I just really began to kind of do my own thing, and so, it was a roller coaster ride all the way through teenage life, middle school, high school, and all of that. And so, by the time I was 12 and 13 and 14, I was pretty involved in a lot of different things, drugs, alcohol, and just everything you can kind of get your hands on. And it was kind of a free for all kind of thing. And so, my mom got married again. We moved to a little place called Richmond Hill, Georgia, and that's where I went to high school. And so by the time, I played basketball and baseball and football, and I did karate and all the stuff kind of growing up, hunting, fishing, and all that, but lifestyle that I wanted to live basically took me opposite direction. Yeah. And so by the time I was 15, 16, 17 years old, I was pretty involved in what I felt like I wanted to do in life, and the direction I wanted to take. And it really did lead me down a really dark hole, to spare all the details of all that. But I found myself at the age of 18 and incarcerated, and for various reasons. There's multiple reasons. I'll spare the whole story, but I found myself there in 17, 18, and kind of doing the jailhouse religion thing, and and when I got out, I was in there for several months, and when I got out, it was you make all these promises and you do all these little these little behavior changes and stuff like that, and it didn't work. It didn't work for me. I still went to church with my mom, stepdad, and everybody knew me. Everybody knew my mom. Everybody loved my mom, my stepdad, and so I remember just getting out, and I was empty, man. I was lost. I was just a young guy thinking that I don't know what is real. I don't know what the God that has been described to me as a distant person, distant man, distant father. And let's not talk about fathers, you know? And so it was like, I don't know what else to do in order to try to please. I can try to figure out how to behave better, and I keep messing up. And and this guy named Charlie, he's kind of an old country boy. He owned his own company, electrical company, a small little company. And he came to me one day after church, and he says, "Hey, I hear you looking for a job." And I was like, "I don't think who told you that?" You know. He goes, "Hey, I'd like to teach you how to wire houses." You know. So, and I was like, "All right, I'll try it." You know. And keep in mind, I got long hair, sideburns, a Bob Marley T-shirt on, and nasty jeans and boots on. You know, like I was. You know, why would you want to hire me? You know. And so he says, "I'll teach you, man." And so what happened was I showed up at his house, and his little shop was in the back, and I got in the truck with him. He showed me how to wire houses, and he met me where I was.
Wow.
Charlie Burkett. And he showed me what it meant to love God, you know, and it was so impactful.
Mm-hmm. He impacted you as a man, not just what he taught, but just he cared for you.
Yeah, he and so to me, pretty much saved my life.
Amen.
And so he took the time to sit, to linger. He didn't throw a Bible verse at me.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not downgrading the Bible. It's just that
you still need that right then.
Yeah, and it was just a calmness to him. He invited me in his home, you know, had dinner with his family, you know, all the time. And so he was teaching me how to wire houses, but, you know, behind the scenes. And then this guy that worked at the church named William, he was the youth pastor. He says, I'm already like 20 years old almost, right, at this point. And he says, "Hey, I want you to go on this little conference thing we got," you know? Yeah. And man, I was like, I don't know about that. Like this bunch of happy, clappy little kids you know, not little kids, but teenagers just singing and dancing on a bus all the way there. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. But anyway, he talked me into it. Charlie came up to me and he says, "Hey, I just want you to know I paid your way to go, and I'm giving you days off paid.
Awesome.
I want you to go." And so I went. And that night, there was probably 7,000 people in that room.
Wow.
And
changed your life.
It changed my life. I was the only person in that room. And I had heard the gospel my whole life. Like, but I heard the gospel in an impactful way that I wept for 3 hours.
Wow.
I went to the back and I grabbed Will's hand, and he saw me and he's like, you don't need to talk. And it was just, I was laid out on the floor, just weeping. And that's the moment. I had made a decision when I was younger at 8 and went down and got baptized in VBS and all the little things that, you know, knew all the little songs and all the stuff. But that moment where God got a hold of me, you know, at that moment. So
awesome.
And so, but yeah, after that, man, it was
it's truly awesome. And you point to the importance of important people in your life.
Yeah.
And there are people that are out there going like, "Well, I'm doing it was not significant."
Yeah.
Well, you didn't need a guy to give you a sermon. You needed a guy to show you how to do something as a man, to wire a house, right? And he made you competent, and then he invited you into his family.
Yeah.
And everyday people can do that all the time.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
And it's crazy. People, I tell players this that are interested in my life. Like, what where'd you come from? They always ask me, where'd you come from? And so, why do you do what you do and stuff like that? And I tell the story of Charlie all the time. I'm doing what Charlie did with me. And the way I evangelize and the way I share the gospel or share my life is from a highly relational aspect. There are times where you meet a guy on a plane and it's you talking about the Lord or whatever, and he just gives you that moment. It's not like, you know, I'm spending a lot of time with this guy or whatever. Right. But it's highly relational in terms of like it's creating space for people. Really, that's really what I do, and I feel like God has allowed me to do that by just a calmness where people can come and feel safe, regardless if they're believers or non-believers or even want to be.
Right.
They feel safe. They feel there's a calm presence there. I'm allowing, and nothing surprises me. And regardless of what you're sharing with me, it doesn't matter. Right. I'm valuing you as a human being that God created. And if you ever come to Christ or never come to Christ, or you do, to me, I'm going to treat you the same way. Yeah. Right. Now I long for you to come to Christ, but yeah, I mean, it's just the average everyday people that you're around, having the ability to create space with them. And then you really, to be honest with you, like you just take the conversation there. Ask, you know, how you're doing spiritually, or ask how, what are your thoughts on God? Like what role does he play in all of this stuff that's going on in your life? Yeah. That type of stuff, you know?
Well, I think another key thing that you said that it's important for me to hear and for other people to hear. Sometimes God microwaves people, and it happens like that. But you said a couple of times, 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, you've had this conversation with somebody that you planted a seed in 5 years ago. And so we always need to be planting seeds, and it's something that anybody can do out there. Yeah. And small things.
I had a guy that I used to hang out in high school named Randy. He's a great guy. And we did some shenanigans. And so he saw God change my life. And I got a call from Randy 20 years later. And he said, I've never forgotten how God changed your life. Wow. And he says, I want what you have. Wow. Just 20-something years later.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah. You just never know the impact of some things. We want to measure impact in so many ways. It helps us feel better, you know, sometimes, but gives us encouragement. But you just never know. It's just the sowing of who you are, or sowing of like just how you're approaching other people, and how you're listening to other people, how you're creating conversations with other people, and that type of stuff, you know. Yeah.
I can tell you're a really good listener.
Yeah. I feel like I am. I don't know. I mean, I think God's equipped me for that, but
yeah, it's a gift.
I think it's because being where you are in your family, there's so much going on. Like you got, 4 kids in the house, Yeah. And so I wasn't the one that was over dominant in the personality. So I would sit and listen to what's going on, and then I would process and process and process. But I think it's just a matter of like asking questions, just like being genuinely curious about a person's story and about who they are and where they come from and all that. And people will, open up. You have to ask the right questions, and then once you get the prime pump of being able to listen and create that space, it really does. Now, Mindy, my wife, might have a little different. No, I'm just kidding. But
you guys are great examples, though. You've told me, I guess I can share this with other people. You're investing this weekend at a Family Life Today conference for you and your wife.
Yeah.
It's in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Several people in the life of our church have done that, where you go and spend the weekend working on your marriage, or a better way, learning to enjoy one another again.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So
we just celebrated 25 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What is that one? The diamond or the gold or the, I don't know.
It's supposed to be the diamond.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Yeah.
Is it going to be?
The diamond? It's still left.
All right. Yeah. We better not give that away.
Yeah. 25 years. I told her I was in arbitration. So I was free agent now. So I was worth more money.
I love it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. So that's where you are now. So how did you meet Mindy?
At Southeastern Seminary.
Okay.
Yes. Wake Forest, North Carolina. So finish the story. I started working in the church along with the pastor and doing a lot of stuff with the youth group and all that stuff after I had and God had changed me. And I just really sensed that the crazy thing about this, Ray, is that I started having quiet times and I didn't know what they were.
Mm-hmm.
I literally had no clue some type of formal study and meeting with God and whatever, right?
Nobody taught you to do that. You just did
it. Nobody said, come alongside me and do this. So until I sat in my first discipleship group, and a guy named Jeff, he was a good friend of mine. He says, hey, listen, man, to the group, like, if you will just get up like 20, 30 minutes before work, and here's a like a devotional thing, you can start here, and it's been, at least 5-10 minutes, just like being able to, do this thing. And I'm like, Jeff, I already do that.
Huh.
And he was like, you do that already? I was like, yeah, I started doing it. I started doing it for like 20 minutes and I felt like it wasn't enough, And so I started doing like 45 minutes. And he goes, you get up 45 minutes before, like earlier now just to study the Bible.
Wow.
And so God just put me in this hunger of just wanting it. And then I started exploring ministry and wanting to study the Bible more and stuff like that. So I went off to Bible college, and that's where I met Mindy.
Right.
There's some ladies there looking for their MRS degree. So
she got hers.
So she was in the seminary, studying Christian counseling, and I was in the undergraduate program. And so, so we met. So the guy, I show up to seminary, I show up to Bible college, and I had applied, but I wasn't really officially approved. I had no money. I had zero money. I had a 300ZX, one of the older model 300ZX for the hatchback.
Yeah.
I had everything I owned in that little thing.
Yeah.
And I drove from Savannah, Georgia, all the way up to Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Wow.
And I show up at the admissions office, and the guy, I told the secretary, and I was like, hey, I need to talk to admissions. Okay, are you a student? Are you like applying? Yeah, I'm applying. I need to talk to the admissions guy. I got some things I need to work through. Yeah. Right. And she was like, okay. All right. So this big guy walks through he's about 6'5", 280 pounds, big old guy. And so he shakes my hand. We walk into his office, and he's like, so let me get this straight. You got everything you own in that car. You don't have a place to live. You don't even have a way of paying for school. And you're not even like enrolled in school yet. Yeah. So, and I was like, that sounds about right. So,
wow.
By the time I was done that day, I had a job on campus. I had a place to stay on campus, and I was enrolled in everything.
Wow.
By the time I finished that day. And that guy across the desk, the 6'5" guy, ended up being my brother-in-law.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I met his wife, and we connected, and then she's like, you got to meet my sister.
And what's his name?
Anthony Allen.
Anthony Allen.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah.
We're working on him.
Yeah.
Giving him a place to sleep and eat that night.
So yeah. And that's how I met Mindy through that connection there.
Wow.
And then, man, we started dating. We started talking, February of 99.
Yeah.
I asked her to marry me in July, and we were married in December.
Wow.
That same year.
Wow. Microwave marriage.
Yeah, man. I knew it.
That is so cool.
I knew it on the second date, but I didn't want to scare her.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, you didn't realize you're marrying me, right? It's going to happen.
I can remember that first date was like, I think it was like a number 2 at McDonald's. You know, we split the 2 cheeseburgers. I had no money. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, you got married for the right reasons too.
Yeah, we got married.
Not like the lady that said, I didn't want to marry him for his money, but it's the only way I could get it.
That's good. Yeah. So yeah, and then that's when I took my first. We got married, and I took my first ministry position as a youth pastor. To my roommate was the pastor, and then he asked me to be his youth pastor, and so we did that in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Okay.
And we were there for a few years, and then we pastored to see Chase City, Virginia. Right after that, and then went back down to. There was some time of restoration for us. The first church I pastored was rough. It was. They. I don't know if you ever remember Dr. Patterson. Remember Dr. Patterson? Yep. He used to say to all the Bible students, you know, he's like, "There's no pastor worth his salt if he's never been fired." You know, I was like, I hadn't got that one out.
You got that took care of.
But no, it was just one of those things that we just got chewed up, and we were burnt. We didn't know where to go, and then so I called. Johnny Hunt was pastoring a church in Woodstock, Georgia. Their church was I had watched him from afar, and we built somewhat of a relationship. And I called him, and I said, I don't know what to do. Here's where I am in life. He put me on the phone with another guy that specializes in that, and he told me over the phone. He says, "Hey, I want you to come here, and we got a house for you to stay in. We'll pay your bills until you get on your feet." And I was like, "Say what?" So we packed up everything, and we at that time we had 2 kids, and we moved to Woodstock, Georgia. And when we got there, we saw there was about 14 other ministry couples they were doing the same thing with.
Wow.
Paying everything, professional counseling, getting them all squared away, and from various reasons why they were out of ministry. Some burnout, some moral failure, some just variations of different things. And that's where really God did such a cool work in me and Mindy, just to be with other couples in that way, and how he restored us. And we were there 8 years.
Okay. 8
years.
Wow.
And so I did just lay positions and did different things there, and then and then we've since God calling us to go plant a church in Phoenix. So that was 2012. Yeah.
Then we're kind of catching up from the story from the end to the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
Yeah.
So now you're here, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah.
And how has our church helped you take your next step in your journey with Christ?
Yeah. So for us, we moved back to East Coast in 2023, January 2023. We kind of floated around a little bit trying to find the right fit for us in connection. Obviously being a pastor, and you have been a pastor of the same church for 24 or 5 years. When you come out of that, finding a church is, it's awkward.
Yeah.
And so we were in the space of like, okay, well,
I want to go where the body's buried here.
Yeah.
Because I know I have something in mind. Right.
So yeah, it's just for us, we were looking for connection. We were looking for, really the best word to describe it for us is, I want to look around and see diversity of people, all walks of life, like,
economically, socially, ethnically, all that stuff.
it should be that. And when we first came, we were like, our first Sunday there, it was like, I felt we walked out and we were like, okay, that was good. We were connected. We looked around. We felt really comfortable, like, with the whole setting, and obviously the music was on point.
Yeah.
And then I got to introduce to you, and then you and I connected. I came to like a Super Bowl thing or something like that.
Yeah, we were watching the NFC or AFC championship game
or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah. And then we got connected.
Yeah.
And to me, what has drawn for me, I can speak for Mindy and everybody else, but just for me, it's a genuine connection of, can I connect with the pastor? Can I connect with what's going on stage all the time? Can I connect with people off the stage and feel connected when when we're not in a large room?
It's a
like
magical word.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah.
And
so for us, it's that.
Yeah.
It's that. And we need to do, with my job, it's a little difficult to go as deep as I think we should or could. So there's some challenges to that. You have really helped fill in that gap in terms, Keanu, and everybody else, that come along with that.
Lord,
kind of feel that. So I don't know. I mean, obviously I have been around a long time in terms of like ministerial, probably a few decades, and just being around pastors and things like that. And I can probably count on a few, just maybe one hand, of some pastors that I know have a genuine gift of encouragement, and you have that.
Glory to God. Thank you.
And so I appreciate that. It means a lot. And I know I speak for a lot of other people, you know what I'm saying? So, and then that's is the pastor the same on stage as he is off stage and all that kind of stuff? You have to kind of work through all of those, and I appreciate you being the man you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
Straight up me wherever you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we found connection there, and that's
awesome. Well, it's great to come alongside and to help you. And, you're also indicative of a lot of modern families in that you're working in different places and sometimes different spaces every day. And one is one side of the country, one on the other. And you got children that are all across the various age groups. So the fact that you have so much to give back to the world is powerful. And we're just grateful to have you as part of our church family and doing things.
Yeah.
You also helped us once the hurricane happened to help us to begin this warehouse called Conduit Carolinas, and help us to be our warehouse manager to start with. And that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was like there's a hurricane, and then we're like right back over here getting stuff from people, like many of you have heard on stage.
Yeah.
As we talked about a couple weeks ago. And then it got to be too much for what we were trying to do. It was getting to be more and more and more.
Yeah.
And you had a couple of months before you went back to the major to the Rangers, and you helped us to get that started. And now it's up and running. And you I don't know if you trained your replacement or your replacement trained you to start with, and now she's kind of taking it and running with it.
I think she trained me.
Rebecca's out there, I'm sure, watching at some point about this too. So she's a valuable team member.
Yeah.
And
I appreciated that. I was telling Miranda, who's the president of the board. So I was telling her the other day about what God does with a yes. We train ourselves to, hey, what do I need to say no to? And which we all need to learn that. But there's some really cool things that God will do with a yes.
Yeah.
You get to know some people. He gives you down to an adventure of, there's some things I said yes to that I'm really grateful I said yes to, and that's one of them.
Amen. Yeah. Wow. Well, so you've got 23-year-old, and that's your oldest, and then your youngest is
Abby, 15.
So Abby's 23, and then
Madeline is Madeline's 15, and Abby is about to be 23.
Abby's in the middle, Olivia and
Josiah.
And how old are they?
Josiah is about to be 19.
Okay.
And Olivia's 21.
All right, so you've got children across the spectrum. You don't have babies yet, or grandbabies or anything like that yet.
No.
You've taken that's just fascinating, and they're doing various different kind of things in the world and finding their way and stuff too.
Yes. There's so many layers to what has gone on in Mindy's life, in my life, even before we got married, and then how he brought some things together. And I'll save Mindy's testimony.
Yeah, so we need to get. By the way, we wanted to get Mindy here today, but we couldn't because she's still working. But we're going to get her back for a sequel as far as it's concerned, because I want to hear that. Yeah, good stuff.
She's got a phenomenal testimony, and God has done some really cool things with her, and like many of us, you outpunted your coverage. Yes,
football coach would say.
Yep. She and I will share this. We have a she had a daughter when she was 18, and there's a whole story with that. But she lives locally now.
Awesome.
And we're a part of her life. She's a part of our life. She has 4 babies, and she's married. So we do have.
So you do have grandbabies. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, we do have grandbabies.
You got the total package, man.
Yes, and we love them. We just kept them the other night while they went on a date, and beautiful kids, beautiful family. So I'll let her tell that story.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's make this a sequel thing.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's draw this conclusion like we typically do with some kind of popcorn kind of questions. Yeah. So I'm assuming you've been to a lot of major league cities.
I say a lot. I'd say.
Where's your favorite? Where's your favorite city to go to that has a major league baseball team?
Well, I should say Arlington, but
besides that one, it's kind of like, I know I'm supposed to say Jesus, but
I mean, the nostalgia of New York and Chicago and places like that.
Cubs and the Yankees and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I would say, because that has a lot of depth to it right there. That's American baseball right there.
Awesome.
And then obviously, I was born and raised a Braves fan.
Yeah.
So
sure, Georgia. You got to kind of be that way, right?
Yeah, I was through and through a Braves fan. I still am. I still root for them, their national team.
As long as they're not playing for y'all, playing against y'all, and that doesn't happen that often, does it? Anyway.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing the playoffs.
It's funny because when we played Arizona in the World Series in 23, and my son grew up.
By the way, next time you come back, bring that big old ring and show us your World Championship ring. Yeah, that's a weapon, man. You can hurt somebody with that thing.
So we're playing the Diamondbacks, right? And my son grew up at Diamondbacks, because we lived in Arizona. Sure. So he has all this Diamondbacks gear when we go to Chase Field, and he's like, "Dad, should I wear Diamondbacks or Texas gear to the World Series or whatever?" Like, are you kidding me? You even asking that question? You're not sitting with me.
You want the white Rangers uniform or the other uniform? Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. So I want to ask you this question. So what major league ballpark has the best food?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
The best you've ever had? Well, you're probably back behind the scene eating the bougie stuff, though, right?
Yeah, I very rarely eat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I go, I like minor leagues.
Minor leagues. All right, tell us the minor league place to go.
I love minor league ball. I like the nostalgia of Asheville.
Okay.
Because it's Babe Ruth played there.
I didn't know that.
And
no kidding.
It's just got a lot of history to it, and just the way it's kind of nestled into a mountain and all that. To me, it's beautiful. It's a little raunchy in terms of the clubhouse and the visiting clubhouse and all that. But that's minor league baseball, and that's what I enjoy.
And what is Asheville's team? Single A, double A?
Asheville is going to be high A.
High A, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that part of it,
Most people know baseball that way.
Yeah.
Because most of us don't have major league teams.
That's right.
Even though we live in Charlotte.
That's right.
And we got I guess that's a AAA team?
And
Charlotte,
the Knights.
The Knights are right, and they're
White Sox.
White Sox team. I forgot that, but we don't. Most people don't have a Major League Baseball team, so we find some kind of minor league thing going on.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
just because that's the grind. That's where guys are trying to make it, and I love it more than I could do that for a long time in terms of at that level.
That's cool.
So
I'm curious. Other than Piedmont, what's the most reliable airline?
Ooh.
If you had to go pick a carrier to carry you somewhere, what would you pick?
It's going to be American or Delta.
Okay,
in my opinion.
All right.
Just because we're
doing American and Delta commercials, by the way. We're seeking out sponsorships today.
Yeah. I mean, they have the pros and cons to them, and you can get frustrated, especially if you fly. Yeah. Regardless of what status you're on, you'll get frustrated at any one of them. But American's been good to me. Well,
and the plane doesn't take off for everybody.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. You might get a seat on the plane if you're important enough, but I'm like, if there's something wrong with the plane or the pilot or the weather, I just soon sit here.
Yeah, I'll just sit. Right. That's fine.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you prefer the East Coast, the West Coast, the North, or the Midwest? We'll leave Texas out of it.
In terms of travel?
Just in terms of what you prefer. Where do you like to be? Besides home and close to Mindy, obviously.
I after spending, almost 11 years in Arizona, it has a special place in my heart for it. I like it.
Describe Arizona, everybody. Why would you like it? Why would they like it?
I mean, it can get pretty warm, but the mountains that you see around you, you're in a valley. The mountains that you see around you, it's just so beautiful. Like I went on a hike there's mountains you can go on hikes everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's this one mountain in the middle of the city where you can literally get up to the top of a mountain and a 360 view of the whole city, right in the middle of the city. And it's about 1.5 miles up, So you got places like that all over the place, And then I'm 2 hours from Flagstaff where it's all snow and I'm 3 hours from the Grand Canyon and
awesome.
I love that, Yeah. I don't want to live there anymore.
Yeah.
I appreciate it and it had a place in our life. But I love North Carolina.
Awesome.
I mean, I was born and raised in Georgia, Southeast Georgia.
So what do you love about here? Obviously your family's close and that makes it easy.
Family's close. I don't know. You just feel like you're with your people.
Yeah.
It's
people that feel like your people.
Yeah.
Your culture.
And it's I get people.
Yeah.
And not that I didn't get people back in Arizona, but I don't know. It's just different. My kids really love Arizona. If you ask my kid, matter of fact, my 2 oldest still live there.
Okay.
And then
that's okay. Well, they can do that as long as they can pay their own bills, right?
Yeah. If they're off the payroll, they're fine. So Josiah, my son, he'll talk about Arizona. He loves Arizona. And that's okay. That's fine. I love East Coast though.
Yeah.
And I want them to love East Coast as much as I do. But I think at some point we'll see the girls back here.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
That's okay. I get that.
Yeah.
There's something special about the East Coast.
Yeah.
I like coming back to North Carolina.
I do too.
I like coming back to America. You ever travel internationally for the Rangers?
Never have.
Okay.
Never have.
So if you were to go to the ballpark, I'm stuck on food here because I'm thinking. So there's a reason I'm thinking about food today. I had a feeling in this mouth is filled, and I didn't know until after I had the anesthesia and after I had the filling done that he said, don't eat anything until tomorrow. So I'm thinking about food right now. So I'm going to ask you about food right now.
You haven't eaten anything since yesterday?
No, I drank a milkshake a while ago, but I can't eat it. So I'm trying to think about what would I want to eat if I went to a ballpark. Would you get nachos with cheese on them? Would you get a hot dog? Or would you get something else, hamburger? Or would you get popcorn? What is it? What would you, a ballpark food, what would you get?
All right. So I'll take you back to World Series experience.
Okay, good.
With me and my son.
I need that.
You have to.
I'll never go, so I have to vicariously live through you.
You have to. Any ballpark, I mean, if you're doing the experience, you better get a dog.
Yeah.
You got to get it. You have to do that.
Yeah.
And so we each got one of those big old sloppy, like stuff rolling off the side of it and it's all over your lap and everything. You got to do it all.
All right. Good. Yeah. So the hot dog is the staple for you.
Hot dog, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I want to continue this, and I don't want to belabor this because I want to bring Mindy back later for part number 2.
I would love it.
And we'll work it and schedule it in such a way so that we can do that.
Yeah.
But man, it's been great getting to know you, and
you too, man.
Thanks for letting everybody get to know you too, which is the whole option of this. When you see Jason in church, if you watch this thing and if you watch the whole thing, you get extra prize. For those of you that don't watch, we know that too. Anyway, we know where you live. It's okay. But make sure to reach out to Jason and Mindy, and they're usually in the second row to my left or to your right from the back, with the whole row of people that are right there.
Yeah, we're the right side people.
Third service.
We don't get to know the left side people.
Right. We can solve that though. You can be missionaries to the other side too. But thank you for joining us today for this 52nd edition of the Next Step podcast. That takes me back to my childhood. There's a 52nd Street song by Billy Joel, but we won't go there. Yeah, my ADD's messing up. I'm fine. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.